Hello, animation industry. Here is one of my fancy banana, peanut butter, and powdered peanut butter and dark chocolate sandwiches. It's got that Arnold fiber bread. Fiber bread. What's special about this is that this is an innovation in enjoying, you know, tasty treat meals without obesity. It's a sort of innovation I wanted to contribute to childhood, but your industry preferred to just promote obesity. Ain't that some shit? Yes, baby. Meow. When I first came to your community in 2006, I was building a whole swath of contributions. These contributions would have contributed to most every area of society as a Renaissance man. So I was building all this, and meanwhile, your people were refraining from, I don't know, just giving me social interaction without screaming. But you sure did enjoy benefiting from these contributions, as went into various webcomics and various animation industry projects. For example, later came Steven Universe, which had friendship and fusion and cosmic warfare stuff, and other such things like that, which all has a lot of meaning within the body of my content, but within your community it fell apart into things like Craig of the Creek, which takes that Steven Universe inspiration and does nothing with it besides, LARP, which can basically represent your whole normal lives, just LARPing all the time. Never honest, always fake. I figure if you're gonna benefit from somebody, you should at least take a look at his frozen pork every once in a while. Check that out. Yeah, it's frozen pork. Just for no reason. Every little thing in life can have some kind of significance. After all, it was made by God. God is infinite. So all this infinite significance. One day, you'd be glad to see you saw this pork. Just like you should already be glad you saw my fucking comments I left in your various communities. And they would bellyache and talk about identities without actually wanting to know them, of course. Just finding some material for attacks. And also ways to gatekeep me from, contributing further. Because they want to be calling the shots, not some random person on the internet. It just so happens that there's a whole industry loaf of pork, so to say, was, taking ingredients from me. One ingredient was just plain vitamin guy. Yeah, just vitamins of things that wouldn't exist without me. Also ones besides guy. Another thing was like the video game Skullgirls, which was really promising in the eyes of a lot of people for a couple years. But then I went into isolation and suddenly it just kind of fell apart, and then they were apologizing for panty shots or whatever. So this Skullgirls, it brings back those Hollywood traditions of the 20th century. Just like John Kay was always talking about on his blog. And how can you not see the significance here? It's as clear as this pork. Because you just didn't want to see it. John got what he wanted, but this is where the Rule 34 Association was created. Because these days, if people talk about John, they're either trying to keep those accusations sputtering against my articles, destroying them, or they're talking about Rule 34. Because they see this heavy classic Hollywood inspiration and other things about Skullgirls, like, this Skullgirl. The whole concept of this Skullgirl relates to my own cosmic setting, the Underrealm, which is full of skull monsters that, make nightmares and fuck you up for making a wish and stuff. It fits snug right in there. Because that's just how life works. It doesn't work according to the fantasies of Los Angeles overgrown man-children. I say if you're gonna judge a man, make sure you check out his Coca-Cola Zero. That's my good rule in life. Check out his Coca-Cola Zero. How many is it there? See it? See? Coca-Cola Zero. So yeah. They wanted to pretend like John didn't want all that classic cartoon stuff. It was just making those sort of characters for the porn he wanted, or some kind of insane crap like that. It's not supposed to make any sense. It's just a queer, nonsensical porn fantasy like, oh, look at this single mom, trying to keep a roof over her head. Oh, this is so sexy. But they don't think of it like that, but it actually does make it in there, because there's some nasty people in life who like to get off on people being poor and desperate. I've had a lot of intimate realization of that sort of thing with your people and your industry trying to communicate that they won against me. They were victorious because they were in the industry, demanding me to make a cartoon, ranting about me wanting to be a showrunner. But no. What is the significance of classic Hollywood? It all has to do with this figure called the Birdman. You can learn a lot by the Birdman just looking up some entertainment with the word Birdman in it. Why? Because all those little pieces of entertainment are supposed to combine together, learn something about, the Birdman. This includes that movie with the Batman actor, named Birdman. Haven't seen it. Haven't seen a lot of things. What I always say, if you're going to judge a man, at least look at his loofah, his rubber gloves, and his cloth in the background. Now, the Birdman is an alternate universe Super Saint. Nobody's ever talked about this before me, but it's easy to understand. It's basically comic book stuff, alternate universes and all that. This alternate universe is associated with an alternate reality of another necessary being. I've never brought up these necessary beings before, but again, if you go on to some religious debates, and I've worked out a lot of stuff. I worked out theology. What have you people in the industry worked out in theology besides we're taking hell back from God with hell of a buzz? Yeah, definitely no nightmare there to unfurl. So, this theology, but people in religious debates, they say things like, oh, so God is a necessary being. Well, where's the other necessary beings? Can anybody think of another necessary being? Well, actually, I can. And there's a whole process to this, because I needed to achieve being capable of understanding and explaining this necessary being, because he's actually mystery. He has power over mystery. You can't discover him unless he wants you to. And so I undertook the challenge required to discovering him, and he explained things like comics and cartoons are black culture and spiritual visions. So, a lot of really important things there. When I was, 16, I was working on this whole renaissance, and I'm still working on this whole renaissance, and you people in the industry have been lost in your stupid, overgrown child fantasies like, oh, I'm working in Hollywood. Do people care? Do people treat you like Chuck Jones? Or even Frizz Frayling? I don't know if that's right. I didn't get those golden collections, you see. I didn't have any cartoon collections. Just had my memories and my principles and my drive. Because we live in America, and we're supposed to be believing in the American dream. And so if some random person on the internet can do better than you, give it up. This is America. I understand that there's a lot of problems, for that in my life. Because when I was in public school, I would innovate things like reading in class. They'd go put that book down. They'd make me have meetings with the teachers and the staff, and practically infinite flow of staff. I don't think that was entirely natural. I think there was some kind of childhood warp zone into a realm of additional staff members to come and complain. For what purpose? So I could learn from the experience with my mom, who was secretly really cool. Yeah, it's all as simple as that. You know what I always say, if you're going to judge a man, take a look at his protein powder and make sure he's not undergoing muscle depression by not eating enough of it. So, you people have your fantasies, your fantasy careers. You don't even really want to acknowledge what is happening in the present or the recent past. Basically, little kids on a little joyride through life with that upper middle class childhood, with that degree, with all those nepotistic connections. And don't want anybody disrupting it, but just take a look around. And I've helped this happen. I know. There's a Herculean task. Oh, I've got to be careful for my protein powder. If you just take a look around. Let's see. Look at all those Steven Universe imitators. Look at all those animation students wanting to draw like Steven Universe. Where are they going? Up to jack shit nowhere land. Because all they have is a faint aesthetic legacy, not the actual meaning of it. The actual meaning of it can be found in my work, like fusion, like in my latest page. You got two demonic entities that are underbeasts, and they are fused together. Frankly, that seems like something they do a lot. And what else does this page relate to? Oh yeah, hell of a boss. Because they're making these relationships between demons, gay relationships. And it makes people confused as to how they are supposed to be good or bad because they're babbling about consent and shit. And that's just, that's just using the inspiration of my underbeast, characters. Like the Skull Girl. Yeah. Or Deathwing. Yeah. Of course, in my work, it's not this alignment. The confusion about the moral alignment is not conveyed by babbling about consent and crap. It's much more advanced. So, yeah. As I always say, before you judge a man, make sure he's got a supply of energy drinks. So, he has enough enthusiasm, he has enough energy. So, yeah. I see people out there just trying to skirt around friendship the best that you can. For you, friendship has become an eschatological phenomenon. You don't want to hear about what friendship really is. I had these sad cases, just yelling about John Christopher at me, claiming that I wanted to have sex with, people I'm trying to be friends with. And that really goes to show the whole scam, because this Asmodeus character, I exposed him to have the mouth of my webcomic Yes, my webcomic has a meta character who is a mecha and other things, this Hauntalar character. And what does this mean? It means this lust character is being consumed by friendship. Being consumed quite harshly. Because, you know, Vivzy, I saw your fans discussing, your show. After I made some posts, and you know what happened. They changed. Because I decided to make them change. I have the power to do a lot of things. And I've gotten in a bit of a rut. What can I say? When you have to process as much garbage as me. And the underbeasts, they're really good at processing garbage. You can get a little bit bogged down in it. But it's like a locust. Because locusts go underground and they emerge and eat the countryside. Yeah, that's the nature of them. Just a fun fact, my microwave busted while I was making this video. And so, Vivzy, I see how the dimensions of your community, they falter. And this applies to these other indie projects. The anonymous Zoomers tried to be very smug towards me for just a little while. Didn't really work. Yeah, the dimensions of their expression, of the way they communicate and interact, of their artistry, they're faltering. Why? Why? It's because of me. Isn't that funny? I guess maybe all those independent projects should do a little bit of a better job giving some credit and reciprocation than, letting their animation Zoomers and other people just go around harassing me and telling me to kill myself and stuff. Yeah. That's a nice possibility, I think. Because all you gotta do is look at my webcomic page. It really contextualizes a lot, including the AI stuff, babbling about copyright, because we're moving into a new age where copyright is gone. Because, the underbeasts, they involve copyrighted characters and stuff. It's just the way it's gonna be. Because it turns out that you can't actually make content for whole generations of children, millions of children and young adults without actually God coming in from behind through me for an absolutely devastating charge of justice, which is most definitely happening right now. This video will be a very useful tool in a lot of ways for this maneuver. Hey, kitty. So, yeah. I'm sure it's going to be quite a story when I find out where the common human decency went for people like Vivzy and the makers of the other series and stuff, all the artists and the fans, especially the ones that interacted with me, various places like, I don't know, maybe the Homestead community or whatever. Yeah. Because, I could definitely feel the Homestuck taint on the hell of a boss. I'm not sure where it is, but I'll find where. I'll find where it is. Already found out the Lackadaisy animated. Like I always say, before you hate on a man, make sure he's got enough dishwashing stuff. I mean, clothes washing stuff. So he's clean enough. So, yeah. I'm intentionally bringing the consciousness of your industry back to, the late 2000s, because you are just living on train crashes of that time. Like Infinity Train, the Purgatory Train thing. You're not actually living in the future. It's fake. There's so much garbage, you know. Back then, this is not how you wanted things to turn out. Even if you were a little kid or whatever, it's not what you wanted. And I see how your community works. You just kind of intentionally give each other amnesia. Like when they come onto the comics and cartoons board of 4chan, which so many industry people spent time on. And they were yelling at people about how old things were. They didn't even want to look at the past. You're living a life where just acknowledging the 20th century as it really was, not insane political bullshit. It's too much for you people, because something important happened. And it had to do with comics and cartoons, because, you know, kids care about this stuff, and kids are the future. When Jesus said, the last will be first, and the first will be last, it seems obvious to me that just includes the priorities of civilization. The priorities should not be that stupid politics, should we put the taxes 1% higher or lower? Should we have that, should we have a check sent out to make our lives a little easier? It should be focused on the children. And we are all eating the consequences of those wrong worldly priorities. The boomers enjoying their lives, but do they actually seem like they're enjoying their twilight years? Are they enjoying those yachts, or is the world just kind of falling apart around them while they refuse to acknowledge what happened? It's all very religious in nature, because they lived in a culture in which the majority were the Protestants and also the hippies and other factions. And it does not build real life. Children don't grow up wanting to live in the light of being a hippie. It's just a bunch of pointless, paradoxical rules pretending to be liberation and cheap gratification that leads nowhere besides being a weed-smoking loser. And the Protestants is just a bunch of straight-up rules that disintegrate and morph together into, psychological dysfunction and broken policies and other things like that. In Catholicism, there's real life. Because my work came straight out of Lord of the Rings. It's not even inspired by Lord of the Rings. Because Lord of the Rings and my work address the same parts of reality as if they are actually real, because they are real. God's creation is much more incredible than what people can make by putting together some cartoon cliches, putting together some Simpsons, some Muppets, some of that newfangled Steven Universe, some of those Disney cliches. And even when in the midst of all that, you actually have something that resonates with people to some degree, something that people can appreciate to some degree, like Hell of a Boss. Well, that's leashed to myself, my eschatological work. My monsters, which can be demonic. My explorations of relationship. My aesthetics. My jokes. My sense of darkness and light. It's dependent on all of that, and it's not implemented well, but people still feel enthusiasm. This enthusiasm goes straight into heaven, which I'm already a part of, as a member of the elect. So, yeah. This is what I want you people in the animation industry to do. Just get in touch with reality. Let go of your childish fantasies. Because they were poorly founded. You didn't actually enjoy Walt Disney. I did. You didn't actually enjoy 90s cartoons. I did, because they were all founded in things like the abstract nature of Looney Tunes. It was all founded in the principles hidden in Ren and Stimpy, which a kid understands. I remember back over a decade ago, back like 15 years ago, there was people who did understand, but they were getting, the industry people, and people wanted to go into the industry. They were going in there like the NFL, tackling, running a deception, doing all these moves, just keeping the industry for themselves. And they won. They kept it for themselves. But they didn't get to become cultural leaders. They didn't get to make real cartoons. They just languished in therapy and mental illness and broken personalities and a psychotic culture whose primary function is centered around whirling around attacking me. And as people read about webcomic and other things, they're going to be able to see that very easily. It's just how life works. It's how cultures work. It's how the social world works. I mean, it's not supposed to normally, but if it's seriously unhealthy and psychotic, it can work like that very easily. So quit having your people lash out at me because I have Keisha lyrics and stuff in my webcomic. It didn't work. Your culture, just as I said, needs to be genocided. And it's working. Welcome to the new stage.